Good morning. Welcome to the November 8th Affordable Housing Advisory Board meeting on Monday, November 8th. This is a hybrid meeting. The hearing will be held via communications media as the county center remains closed to the public other than the visits that we are experiencing today, which is good. Anyone who wishes to speak during the public hearing can do so by contacting the Affordable Housing Advisory Board at affordablehousingservices@hillsboroughcounty.org. You'll be required to provide your name and a telephone number in your email request to speak. This information is used to facilitate the audio conferencing process, and the chair will call on the speaker by name in order in which they are submitted by email request. Prioritization will come on a first come, first served basis. An audio call-in number will be provided to participants who have submitted an email request. All callers will be muted upon calling and will be unmuted in the submission order after being recognized by the chair by name. Up to 3 minutes is allowed per speaker. Sign-ups for the Affordable Housing Advisory Board will not be accepted after 30 minutes prior to the hearing. Public comments are offered using communications media will be afforded equal consideration as if the public comments were offered here in person. And we do have public commentary participants here in person today. You may also submit your comments or document any prior to the meeting by sending it to affordablehousingservices@hillsboroughcounty.org. Note, speakers are asked to follow a common courtesy when speaking before the committee, and disruptive participants will be removed at the chair's discretion if they violate the following prohibitions: promoting or advertising of or soliciting for private businesses, personal attacks against others, including the committee, the board, and staff members, calls for violence in inappropriate language, racial and discriminatory comments, and defamatory statements, and religious intolerance are not prohibited. With that, I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting. And given that we are a hybrid, I'd like to ask Ms. Natasha to actually do a roll call, please.
Overman.
Here.
Rosenwasser. Myers.
Here.
Burden. Abel. Powell.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
Jackson Sims.
Here.
Okay. Combs. Sarah Combs?
Here.
Okay. And Mr. Hollis did say in advance that he would be absent today, Commissioner. And then we have county staff, Cheryl Howell.
Here.
And Nancy Takamori.
Here.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining us today. Today we also have a opportunity for public comment. As I mentioned earlier, there's 15 minutes set aside for that. And if there is someone who'd like to speak for public comment, you're welcome to join the podium now, please, and introduce yourself. Right there. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. That one.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I'm Tampa activist Michelle Williams. It's nice to see so many of you that I haven't seen in quite some time. Some of you since you were running for office and were elected and used my social media platform to win some of your seats. I'm here this morning because my family and we went through a very devastating event on October the 29th. I had gotten up as usual, taking my grandkids to school who reside with me and my son. And 25 minutes later, I was receiving a phone call from the Hillsborough County fire chief to let me know that my house had been destroyed in a fire.
Oh, no.
30 years of family heirlooms and all of my inventory, because I was one of the top selling candle maker in the state of Florida. And I lost everything. But the devastation didn't just stop there. Unbeknownst to me, when the Red Cross called me, they were still under the impression that Hillsborough County had a Section 8 department, the Hillsborough County Board. I had to update I had to update the Red Cross with their information, their outdated information, and let them know that the Hillsborough County Section 8 Department had merged in 2010 with the Tampa Housing Authority. They were unaware of that. Not only did I have to update them with that, it became even more devastating news to me that there were funds that were allocated when families go through such devastations that was set aside through the county and the city. Those funds are no longer there, and those funds can't be found. I'm here this morning not just to speak about Michelle Williams. I'm here to speak about every poor person in this town who can't afford anything. I literally just had moved into my new home. I've only been there 2 months. 2 months, and I lost everything. I was invited to go down to the Catholic Charities for housing and the Metropolitan Ministries for housing, but I couldn't take my son with me. I will not participate in being a part of the dividing of the black child from the black mother. My son has never done anything to this state. My son has never done anything to the Metropolitan Ministries. My son had never done anything to the Catholic Charities, where I was told my son, who has custody, sole custody of his 7-year-old and his 5-year-old child, he has raised them no welfare, because I taught my son independence and how to get up and work. My son has a damn good job where he pays for everything for his children, including, with the help of me, their private schooling. We're one of the ones that made it out of the pot, and we have testimonies to say that it's not going to be the division where we're going to continue to participate with the Jim Crow of dividing the black family. I was so hurt, but I'm here to say, wherever my son was not welcome, his mom certainly is not welcome. Because I was told I can bring me and my grandchildren there, but my son couldn't have a roof over his head. That is something that goes dated back to the history of the United States government dividing the black mother from her husband, her soulmate, her companion, or her 18-year-old black son. Something is really broken in this county, not just Hillsborough County, but the 67 counties that surround us in the state of Florida. We are broken because, one, we don't have affordable housing. We don't have a disaster plan set up in case something like this happens. I can't believe that there are no resources. I was awarded $515 after I bought 2 air mattresses, this outfit from Walmart, some undies for my grandkids, and replaced their khakis for their school, and bought them 2 purple shirts apiece and socks and some shoes. We spent $504.98. How do I replace what I had? I wasn't on government assistance. Last year, I was one of the fortunate ones that was able to make over $100,000 selling my candles. I have nothing now. Nothing. I don't have nothing. I don't have inventory to get back up. And then you think it stops there? No, it didn't stop there, because we started a GoFundMe. We raised over $2,100. We transferred the first draw, which was $1,596, to my Cash App. And because I'm so popular on social media, guess what? My Cash App got scammed and they stole the money. But guess what? God sits high and he looks low, and I'm not going to hold on. I'm never going to let go of his unchanging hands. God does everything for a reason. Maybe he used the strongest lamb that he knew that was going to be able to have tough skin and fight, because we're broken in Hillsborough County. We're broken in the city of Tampa. We don't have resources. There are none. I employed this board to reconsider of reopening up the Hillsborough County Section 8 department, because guess what? It was valid. It was valid. When that department was here, you all stood above the Tampa Housing Authority. Everyone wanted to be a part of the Hillsborough County Section 8 department. I can't even get Section 8, because guess what? The veterans come first, and there are families before me. So now I'm on a waiting list with over 60,000 people. How do we fix this problem? Because we're definitely broken. We're definitely broken. We reached out to Ms. Howell, and I received a phone call from Mr. Joe, and we're trying to work on some things. But guess what? I'm in a house right now, my son and my 2 grandkids with my daughter. So now there's 11 of us in a 1,070 square foot home in East Tampa. Oh, I love it. My daughter loves that my mom's there, because I'm cooking every day and cleaning every day. But guess what? That's not my home. That's not my home. We had a home. The homeowner that I was renting from, she's not answering the phone now. She's not obligated to answer the phone now. But it's not fair to me that the fire was caused by a faulty wire and I can't even have my items replaced. I can't even have my items replaced. I'm here to listen to anything that you all have to say, any suggestions, anything that I can go out and research and do. This is what I need for my family. It's just not for me because, like I say, it was embarrassing that the Red Cross did not even realize that their information was so outdated, 11 years outdated, that they were still under the impression that we had a Hillsborough County Section 8 department, and I had to notify them. And I went, and she asked me where was I getting this information from. Me being the person that I am, I still have emails, and I was able to show her the merge all the way back when it started from 2008, when former Commissioner Kevin White started that, spearheaded to merge that. So in 2010 is when it actually happened. So now that their information is updated, but like the Red Cross say, it's a blatant embarrassment that the Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa don't have resources. Because the lady had told me, Ms. Fran, said, had my fire been set in St. Pete, I would have been in a house that following night.
Ms. Williams, thank you very much for being here today. And what I'm going to ask our staff to come up and give you some assistance locally here. We do have a social services department that actually does much of what you've described. But I'm going to see if maybe we could get some staff to come up and meet with you if you're able to stay after the
It's going to
meeting.
include my son, because my son is in need also. And if my son is not going to be able to receive these resources, I don't want them.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. With that, I don't see any other public comments to offer. Okay, and with that, do we have a quorum, Natasha? We do? We do have an in-person quorum. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. With that, the next item on the agenda is approval of the last set of minutes for October 11th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
We have a motion and a second. With that, Natasha, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Overman,
Yes.
Rosenwasser, Myers,
Yes.
Burton. Ms. Burton? Yes. Okay. Abel? Powell?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Jackson Sims?
Yes.
Combs? Sarah Combs? Are you still on the line? Okay.
She just unmuted, but
Okay.
we may not be able to hear her.
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. What's your vote, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 9-0.
Excellent, thank you very much. And I failed to do a very important thing. Could we stand and offer the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the chair's report. I just have a couple of quick updates. Recently, actually as of last week, we did approve using ARP, or American Rescue Plan dollars, to assist in the renovation of a property to provide housing and immediate affordable housing for the area. And looking forward to seeing that evolve. But that set aside monies to be able to increase some affordable housing immediately. I want to thank Ms. Howell for her research and finding that location and been able to work in getting that moving forward. Additionally, there is the process of actually preparing our legislative slate. I do have some good news and more additional information. Last year, we made a lot of noise about not only having one 9% credit deal for Hillsborough County, of which we had and have an agreement with the city of Tampa of taking turns, since we only have one. However, I think our concerns were heard, and there is an additional 9% credit available to the 5 largest county on a competitive basis now that we did not have prior to this last legislative session. So I'm very happy to hear that we have another opportunity. So making sure that we have a deal in the works that we can compete for with the other 5 largest counties, I think will be a step in the right direction. Of course, we need more, but we'll take that. The other item is in our legislative platform. We have made additional funding as much as possible for developing additional affordable housing in Hillsborough County as a legislative priority. That slate has not yet been approved. It's due to be approved by the Board of County Commission at the next board meeting. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well. The other thing that I think it's important for us to recognize is last year, when the Sadowski Trust was swept permanently, for all practical purposes, of about half of the trust fund, those dollars went to 2 other admirable goals when they were swept. They went for septic to sewer conversions in order to address the large amount of septic to sewer challenges that are within our state, but also sea level rise and climate change and resiliency. That 25% of that went towards septic to sewer, those monies are set aside, and we're apparently setting up, or there is a process for competitive grants. And the reason this is important is I did a little bit of research to discern how we have historically funded the Sadowski Trust dollars and where those dollars are and where they went. Hillsborough County is a donor county. We actually contributed as of September 15th, $239 million towards that trust fund as of this year. Last year, we contributed $175 million in dollars to that trust fund. And we don't get all of that back. The housing section of it has an appropriation formula that gives us a certain percentage of the Sadowski dollars. But to my knowledge, there does not appear to be an appropriation process. It's now on a competitive application process for the septic to sewer monies that are not coming to us as affordable housing dollars. So I am working with the county staff and our legislators to assure that Hillsborough County gets 25% of that $239 million that went to Tallahassee. So I want to encourage you that I'm looking for every opportunity to improve our communities. And while I would have liked to have seen the money stay in affordable housing, given that it's moved there and we have a promise they will no longer sweep the funds that are allocated for affordable housing, we're going to work as best we can with the state to ensure that the citizens here in Hillsborough County are able to utilize the monies that they send to Tallahassee as much as possible. With that, I'd like to take or ask for any questions if there are any, and then we'll move on to the director's report. Seeing none, Ms. Howell, would you like to offer us the director's report?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Could
I'm
you
sorry.
repeat how much funding that Hillsborough County gave toward the fund, please?
All right. The Sadowski Trust Fund is funded primarily with dock stamps, and that is a combination of the fees that are charged when deeds are transferred and mortgages are recorded. Mm-hmm. And Hillsborough County, as of September 15th, 2021, has generated approximately $239 million. As of 2020, that was $175 million, and those are round numbers. As of 2019, was $171 million. So the increase in values that we've seen over the last year and the number of sales in a very hot market has generated a significant amount of income. So my goal is to bring as much of that back to Hillsborough County as possible.
I'd just like to have a follow-up comment.
Sure.
So, I'm quite sure, for Hillsborough County and other counties that's doing a lot of work toward, improving the market. And of course, the state of Florida definitely appreciate having those dollars. But then what you see is those dollars then being diverted toward whatever the political will is of the leadership of the state. And
Agreed.
so what we're needing is a more aggressive, not saying you ain't being, but a more aggressive hand in making a demand that those dollars come back to needed communities, because like statements from the public comments and what we hear constantly in the community is a dire need. And so what we are seeing as just an ordinary citizen is other people is shifting the train in a direction that's going to be a more usage toward a certain constituent body. And then on your local level, we still not getting what we are needing. A small percentage of affordable housing, even when developers come in with targeting, 10% of new development back to the most vulnerable population and people in our community, it is not enough. It is not enough, I'm saying, to drive us to the poll to support, platforms that talk about affordable housing, and yet and still is just like being piecemeal. So I would just like to encourage the leadership at the county and others to just stay aggressively pushing, and not allow, to the best of your ability, folks in Tallahassee to make all these determinations. They might get the final word, but aggressively, we would know that in Hillsborough County, you're doing all that you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burton, I appreciate that.
Madam
And
Chair. On that note, if you don't mind, please. Ms. Burton is right, it's a lot of money, but what I did a week ago at the city, we had a building of homes that are going to come to fruition of a 47th Street just north of Hillsborough. But I got several calls from folks who are renters that say, you're building now, trying to do this mixed level income, which is good, but for me who's living in a place now, I've got to be out by the end of my lease because it's gone up $600. And they're right. So a bunch of people came by my family's business and dropped off some information. I researched all night this information. And some cities have recognized that there is an emergency housing crisis, which we have. And doing my research, I found that St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Santa Ana, California, they have what they call rent stabilization. Whereas 3%, no different than our property tax is 3% a year. So if someone moves out during that year span, you move in, the landlord just can't jack that rent up again. It stays there a whole year. What has happened, also with inflation, they market it as well with the inflation. And there's a special need for a landlord who needs extra dollars because of renovation or whatever, they have to get approval for that. The Florida legislature has put a lot of barriers in front of us about those type of programs. But I had one of my crafty city council attorney, he does a great job for me looking at things. But I found out there is a rule in there that talks about emergencies, housing, crisis. And I think we have to look at that at this particular point. I think St. Pete must have heard me because they're now starting to get petitions up in reference to that, whereas the city or county can put it on a referendum, or the voters can put it on, and the voters can say they want to do that. It's will be a hot item for developers and landlords, but I think there's something that we do have to look at right now, because people who have a decent salary at this point are saying that I got to move to find a place because I can no longer pay $2,100 a month. Everybody wants to make a dollar. I understand that, it's business, but we also have to look at how families are living, and they're being put out, or they're not taking vouchers, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. So we as an elected body of people who are in power have to really look at the bottom line for all people. And we still want the economy to grow. So later on when it's time, I'm going to ask a motion that your legal department here also look at rent stabilization for what we can do, not what we can't do. But what we can do, be it we put on a referendum, be it the board, it may be a collaboration with the city or whatever to come up with an idea to where we can stabilize the market, you know, and I believe it has to be voted on each and every year, whatever. But let's see what we can do, but not what we can't do. Right?
Excellent. Thank you very much for your comments, Councilman Goods. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd just
Commissioner
like to
Myers, you're
add
recognized.
to that, and thank you, Chair, is that we ask our county attorney's office to look into this, to see what they can bring back to us at our next meeting regarding rent stabilization. So if we have to consider doing a referendum, have more information to what is required, and then we can take it to the Board of County Commissioners.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Jackson Sims, you're recognized.
thank you, Madam Chair. While I'm encouraged by the comments that I'm hearing from both the councilman and the commissioner, I'd like to caution us from moving too quickly. Affordable housing in Hillsborough County is something that I have been involved in for over 30 years. And for 30 years, we've been trying to get the city and the county on the same page and working together, because this is one housing market. It's not a city housing market and not a county housing market. So before we jump into the water on rent control for Hillsborough County, we need to first jump into the water on having a joint and combined affordable housing program that encompasses both the city and the county, because people don't know when they're in Councilman Good's district versus when they cross a line and come into the county district. Who do I go to? Who do I see? Am I in the city? Am I in the county? Why are the rules different for me in the city than they are in the county? So until we can come together as a local community with one strategy that we take forward, and that strategy including collectively pressing our local state legislators to be more responsive to the needs of the community that they represent, we're going to continue to piecemeal this. And 30 years of piecemealing is a little bit too long. So I would suggest that we do a more comprehensive review.
Thank you, Ms. Sims, Jackson Sims. I appreciate that. I agree. We have started working better together to some degree. I am still waiting for the cities to finish their review of, for example, the Tenant Bill of Rights that the county approved last spring. And I've not gotten full resolution on whether or not the cities have adopted that same language. To your point, Ms. Jackson Sims, where we're all on the same page in terms of who has rights. I know those are in the works, and I'd look forward to getting a response back from the cities to see that they have adopted the exact language so that there's less confusion.
It's coming. I know
It's coming.
back. It's
Okay.
coming.
And Ms. Abel?
It's on now. It's on now.
It looked like it was on. Now I can hear that it's actually on. Thank you.
Okay, go right ahead, and if you don't mind repeating what your question was.
Well, it's just an update, really.
Okay.
But we discussed it on the October 19th, and really the concern was enforcement and adding that piece of enforcement to Temple Terrace, which is very small. And I'm not sure if, well, other council members were concerned we didn't have the capacity to enforce that. So I think the conclusion of that conversation is that we had further questions, and I'd like to speak with Ms. Takamori to engage in some help with us to get the answers to those questions that we have.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that. And I'm sure that there is an opportunity, as Ms. Takamori can advise us, on how maybe an understanding could be put together, or a memorandum of understanding in terms of enforcement, if that is something that is of concern, that would prohibit it from moving forward at this stage. So I look forward to having you work with our legal counsel to see if there's the best solution for that.
Thank you. And I think that the sentiments have been echoed that, you know, people in Temple Terrace, we don't want to endorse income discrimination either. We want to make sure that that's prohibited. But the enforcement was definitely the greatest concern
Okay.
that was expressed.
Okay, let's see if we can't find a solution to that problem. I'm sure we can. Excellent, excellent. Not seeing any other comments at this point. I think what we might do is we have always invited the City of Tampa's Housing Department to join us at these meetings, and would encourage having them so that there can be a robust conversation, as well as them being able to keep track of the stuff that we're working on. But maybe it might be advisable to consider doing a workshop between the boards as well as staff at a future date to see where there can be some collaborative work on working together on increasing not only affordable housing, but also protection for the citizens in the community when it comes to housing, whether it be rental or home ownership. There are a lot of folks doing a lot of good work. And the good news is that's great. But where there is confusion when the citizens are trying to navigate our system, as we heard earlier, I think there's some opportunities to do good work there and do it better, but also in advocating where the state limits our ability to do things, or the statute does restrict those opportunities, where we can come up with some good solutions to work with our legislature on improving opportunities for the citizens that live here. Seeing no other comments, I would like to recognize Ms. Howell for her director's report.
Good morning to everyone. Good morning to the board, Commissioner Overman, Commissioner Myers. I am here to bring the director's report. But before I begin, I just want to say that, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't make comment on Michelle's comment to the board and some of the cracks that we're experiencing in our system for our people that are facing extreme need at this time. And so I am going to have staff to reach out to her today. Again, staff reach out to her just to kind of assess the situation, but I am going to have staff reach out to her today to see if we can't get some immediate housing for this family. And it's something that we may want to look at as a board as well. So typically when we deal with disasters, we typically deal with disasters in terms of naturally declared disasters, and that typically is how our plans are written. And so we may want to rethink some of those things as well as we move forward, because disasters are not just limited to naturally declared disasters, but personal disasters happen that can debilitate a family, and sometimes for even a generation. So those are things that we must consider as we move forward. The next thing that I want to really share is that if Ms. Burton, if you could just go back and look at some of the footage that occurred at the state level in regards to piecing and parceling out the dock stamps for the Sadowski Fund, you'll see that there was a ramming of policies, policy amendments and changes that occurred when they wouldn't even entertain comments from their Democratic colleagues. And so it was frustrating to watch, at least. And I will get into our director's report. The first thing on my report this morning is our local housing incentive strategies approval, We brought this before you last month. We came back, we made some changes per your suggestions, and we are bringing this back before you this morning for a vote. And so we need a vote on this particular project so that we can move it forward to Florida Housing Finance Corporation.
And just for the record, this is a public hearing. I don't believe anyone has signed up to speak, but this is a public hearing.
Excellent, thank you, Ms. Takamori.
Thank you, Nancy.
Ms. Howell, would you be interested in giving us a short summary on the incentive strategies prior to entertaining a motion for approval?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll go back over the strategies once again. These strategies are submitted to the Florida Housing Finance Corporation for our Sadowski funding. But they also are really kind of drive the bundle of incentives that we have at the county's level. So they're not all inclusive, but we do have some additional ones. We have our density bonuses. We have our impact fee waivers that we cover as well. And so now that we have our neighborhood revitalization strategy areas, it will create some flexibility so that we can utilize other funding to be able to do corridor redevelopment and some of those other things that you will see in our biennial plan for our HOPE dollars. But this is an ongoing review process. So we look at these things ongoing to see what can work, what other municipalities are doing, and how we might be able to better our system here. We have our mobility fee requirements for multifamily, and so it's really in essence our impact fee relief program. And so for multifamily and single family projects, they are able to get some relief for that. And for those of you who don't know, it's a fee that has to be paid, and so we pay that out of a fund that affordable housing has, and it's a formula that's utilized. The allowance of flexibilities and density for affordable housing. So based on the area, based on the number of units that you can have, and based on the number of units that you'd like to build, and the number that are set aside for our targeted population, you're able to get some density bonuses. That is huge, especially in the multifamily sector. Allowance of affordable accessory residential units, that's a huge one as well. And so we want to make sure that our most vulnerable populations, especially our housing for older people, single family efficiencies, accessory dwelling units. And so for years they were pretty much outlawed and not allowed in certain neighborhoods, and we made some changes to be more inclusive of that as well. And so we may be able to do some additional things as we move forward, but we are taking this thing one step at a time. The reduction of parking and setback requirements is one, and so we want to make sure that we are not overburdening our developers in really looking at the cost of affordable housing and trying to keep that affordable. And parking was one of those things that we could utilize in obtaining that goal. The allowance of flexibility with lot configurations and zero lot lines as well. So, one of the 5 L's in building is the cost of land. And so when we start looking at some of those basic costs and being able to cut those down, then it's able to trickle down to the end user. Our preparation of printed inventory for locally public lands. As you know, we just had an RFP that went out just recently. We have some other public lands. We're working on our CLT. So we have a number of different things that we are moving aggressively forward on in terms of public lands. Support of development near transportation hubs and major employments. We are utilizing our mapping efforts. As a matter of fact, I will be meeting with our HART executive this next week to look at certain areas so that we can plan better in terms of areas where affordable housing may go and how it might impact transportation and how we may better plan to serve many of the constituencies that she serves and we serve as well. And we're also looking at other affordable housing incentives as they come up. We work very, very closely with Melissa Zornita and their group. And so we just are always looking for ways to be able to improve our incentives, our bundle of incentives.
Excellent, thank you very, very
And-
much. Are there any questions regarding the incentives list? Mr. Powell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Your mic is not on, I don't think.
Can you hear me?
Just push the button until it says green.
It's red. Can I be
It's
heard?
red.
I like the revisions.
Okay, just a
that-
moment, sir. Oh, we can't, we're not hearing you.
It's on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
All right, it seemed to be like super close. Okay.
there you go.
Collect my thoughts.
And
So
stay close. Stay-
I do like the changes that were made. The only thing that I think that would be really beneficial would be if we could maybe make a slight amendment to paragraph 1 on the expedited processing of approvals. You know, right now it reads, the county has maintained a policy to expedite the processing of affordable housing projects. Processing time is reduced by 50% for projects, and I would like to see that processing time shall be reduced by 50% to ensure that you know, those projects are actually, you know, truly expedited, and that we have some sort of process in place to ensure that. And I don't know how to best effectuate that. Maybe that would be through you know, additional persons within the development services who maybe just specifically handle affordable housing applications as they come along. But I think that would be a really, you know, great incentive, you know, for developers if they knew, you know, for certain that, hey, we're going to do a project and we are, you know, we're going to have a 50% reduction of time.
Okay, so you're making a recommendation that we modify the language to indicate that it would be processed on page 2 of our agenda under the expedited processing of approvals of development orders or permits. Second paragraph indicating that processing time is reduced, shall be reduced by 50% for projects. Would that be a substantial change, Ms. Takamori, to require re-advertising the item for today's public hearing?
I don't believe that it would be a substantial change or require re-advertising. And I believe that the adopted development review procedures manuals does provide already for the expedited process. And perhaps Ms. Howell or her staff can confirm this, but that's why it says currently that the processing time is reduced by 50% for projects. I understand that to reflect what the DRPM says, but perhaps staff can confirm that.
And so I'd like to add in, you know, there's a lot of things that that occur in this process, and sometimes, you know, as staff works aggressively to meet that goal, sometimes the delay is not actually staff. Sometimes the delay is the applicant, and so when we say shall, that means that it will happen in spite of everything else that happens in that process. And so this language really is. Comes from our land use and our development services department. And so it gives them some flexibility. And while we work towards that goal, aggressively. And they have navigators and we have navigators, but it does not allow, hold just a second, please. Okay, I apologize. Something's going on at my at my home, and so as we work towards that goal, we have to realize that there are a number of different things that happens, and it gives staff that too. And so, without saying that we absolutely have to do this, in spite of other things that happen outside of the things that staff is in control of.
Does that address your concerns, Mr. Powell?
I do understand what Ms. Howe was saying. I just think that if we were to make the change as I had proposed, and I was certainly open to other suggestions, I think that it would be give a greater certainty to applicants, that are going through the process, because, words matter, and, shall and by do have two different meanings. And I do understand what Ms. Howell said. If, the applicant, is remiss in getting things turned in a timely manner, then certainly you're not going to be able to meet certain timelines, and that really would be on, on them. So just trying to find something that would just make, make this even better, to attract.
Understand.
And Mr. Powell, we'll continue to monitor the process to ensure that that's why we have navigators, and land use has navigators as well, so that if there's an affordable housing project going on, those navigators work together to ensure that we're not having snags in our system. And they also provide a great deal of support to the applicant too, to help them get over the hump. So all of our applicants in the affordable housing arena are not like big developers that have all these lawyers, and they're not very sophisticated in some instances. And so we really want to work with them to make it happen. And so that's why Adam and myself committed staff to navigate through that process and to help them. And so if you'll allow us the opportunity to continue to monitor this, we'll continue to monitor this to ensure that, our applicants are getting through this process and are able to cut down on their time. Believe me, the larger applicants typically do not have an issue with getting that time cut in half, but it's our smaller nonprofits that don't have the staffing on board or the expertise really on board, that sometimes get stuck. And so we want to be there to help them through that process.
Madam Chair.
Okay, just a moment, please.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Wasser, you're recognized.
I understand Mr. Powell's concern. I've always considered, and I think it's commonly used in law and ordinances, that the word is much more definitive than shall, and it's almost mandatory. And so I respectfully would like the language to stay the same as is.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Wasser. Councilman Goods, you're recognized.
And I understand Ms. Howell's point as a person who sits late nights on a Thursday doing zonings and hearings. She is right. A lot of times your bigger developers and companies, even your middle size, they have the money or the experts to do a lot of this stuff, whereas your smaller people, sometimes we have to send them back for continuation because of the process, because they don't know to know. And it happens a lot of times with your smaller people because they just don't have the capital. So I see where Ms. Howell is coming from and understand that because that does happen quite often with our smaller people not being able to know the process or have the staff to do the process in a fashion like that.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Goods. I don't have a motion yet, so we can consider your recommendation as a motion and vote on that, or consider just the recommendation. I hear, what I'm hearing from your concern, it apparently is actually, as Mr. Rosenwasser mentioned, is embedded in the language already, where we indicate that on the county side is a policy to expedite and is reduced by 50%. So whether or not shall gets us closer to what we've already established as a policy is the question I have, maybe for Ms. Takamori.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I just looked it up as we were talking here in the Development Review Procedures Manual, and it does provide that affordable housing projects shall be granted a review in half of the normal working time. So that, I think that's where the language in the LHIS came from, because it says processing time is reduced by 50%, and the procedures that govern what the Development Services Department do require that half time. Now, if, because of the nuances of the project, if it takes longer, you know, and that's a cooperative relationship between Development Services and the developer, then it takes longer. But in the first instance, Development Services needs to give the first comments back in half the time for affordable housing.
Mr. Powell, does that address your concerns?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and are you going to make a motion or not?
No, ma'am, I just wanted to posture that and
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
hear the
Excellent,
discussion.
excellent. Thank you very much. Ms. Jackson Sims, did you have a comment?
I'd like to offer a motion to approve the local housing incentive strategies as presented by staff.
Excellent. We have a motion by Ms.
Second.
Jackson Sims, a second by Commissioner Myers, correct? Okay. And with that, could you take a roll call vote?
Overman,
Yes.
Rosenwasser. Myers,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Abel,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Goods. Jackson Sims,
Yes.
Combs, Sarah Combs,
Yes.
motion carried 9-0.
Excellent. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Ms. Howell, you're recognized for the next item on the agenda?
Great, thank you so much. We have our local affordable housing plan. This plan is in its draft state. It's being presented to you for review, not for approval. But I just think it's important that you understand, what this plan includes. There are not big changes that in terms of the plan that has occurred, but there are some things that have changed within our affordable housing planning that I want to share with you so that we can employ some of the other measures that's in here. So last year, affordable housing had approved our NERSA, and that's our neighborhood revitalization strategy areas. And that was included with our consolidated plan that went to the Board of County Commissioners, and it went up to HUD. Essentially what that does is it allows some flexibility in our federal funding, which will allow us to employ certain things and marry those dollars with some of these dollars so that we could really start to move on some of these projects. One in particular is our corridor redevelopment for land acquisition, and the other would be our revenue enhancement grant and some of our land banking opportunities as well. And so some of you may think, well, why would we really want to enhance our land banking opportunities when we have land available? Some of the land that we have available, much of the land that we have available right now are not like right on the bus lines. And so as we're moving forward to increasing affordable housing in our transit in our transit-rich areas, we're going to be looking for opportunities so that we can help mobilize people, help people get to work, and help house people all at the same time. And so those two items will allow us to do it. And when we're looking at other opportunities such as hotel, motel acquisition and rehab, this will also allow us to employ some of those plans. So I just want to encourage you to take the plan, to read over it. And this is a plan that's laid out that certainly can be relooked at. We want your ideas on this plan, and it's in its draft state, and we're going to be finishing up the final final revisions to this and taking this back to the Board of County Commissioners for approval. And so I appreciate all of your efforts and everything that you do, but please take some time to read over this draft plan.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. I do want to encourage the board to review this. Also this week, the TPO, or the Transportation Policy meeting, will include presentations on transit-oriented development. That'll occur on Wednesday, I believe. There's a policy group meeting at 8:30, and then the regular meeting is at 10 a.m. On that agenda are several items that talk about transit-oriented development, as well as recommendations on how to best deliver those policies. So while it isn't housing, we're definitely looking at strategies within Hillsborough County on how we can marry housing and transit. And so as you review this plan, having that information available to you might be very, very helpful for recognizing the value of putting those two things together. So with that, I did see Ms. Burton, you had a question earlier? Okay, you're good. Mr. Powell, you recognized?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question on page 3, there's 2 tables, and the second table below, the percentages that are in there, those add up to way above 100%, so I didn't know how what those are supposed to be tying into, just so I can understand. It's got 35% for construction rehab, 10% home ownership, 45% rental, 5% administrative, and then you have very low income 50%, low income 50%, and then moderate income 10%. So I didn't know what those might be tying back into.
Right, and so that does, I want to say that's a grievous area in the very low, and moderate income areas. But in terms of the percentages above that, we have 45, we have 50, we have 95. We'll need to check our numbers. As I said, this is a draft plan moving forward. Ms. Hollinger? Are you on the line?
Just a moment, she's coming to a microphone.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
You'll need to turn your
Hi,
microphone
Ms.
on.
Hollinger. Can you offer for us an explanation on this draft plan for the percentages here?
Absolutely. So for,
You'll have to get a little closer, ma'am.
okay, good morning. So those numbers don't add up precisely. They're supposed to be the 35, 10, 45, and the 5% supposed to add up to 100%, and it doesn't. I think the additional 5% goes up in the percentage in construction rehab.
I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing you.
So where you have percentage for construction rehab, that should be 45%. And then the 10%, 45, and the 5 total should be 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
And the very low income and the moderate incomes seem to be off as well. So, but just for your knowledge, Mr. Powell, all of these numbers would not add together. You know, and so per our plan, it's important that we have our very low income, our 50% and below. So this plan is a 50-50 plan, meaning that 50% of the funds should go towards people at or below 50% median family income. And then we have another benchmark in there for the 80%. So I want to say that 80% number is off, and then we have another benchmark for 100% because they're limited or capped at 100%. Is that so?
That makes-
Ms. Hollinger?
That is correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Excellent. I think
All
that
right.
addresses his concerns.
I was just
Right.
curious. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that.
No problem.
All right, great. Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding the biennial plan? And so I encourage the board to review it and then make sure that you get comments back to Natasha for consideration at the next meeting. Ms. Abel, you're recognized.
I'm looking at page 5 and 6, and on both pages, there's a line that says that the county works in cooperation with the City of Tampa, City of Temple Terrace, City of Plant City, and other organizations in order to develop and implement affordable housing goals and programs. And I was just wondering, what are the processes, the mechanisms in place in order to work with these other entities inside the county?
Okay, so typically, the City of Plant City and the City of Temple Terrace, they are urban county partners. And so they submit projects to us for our CDBG and our any home funding or any other type projects that they have in place. But what this also means is that the county goes into those areas and provides services to their constituents as well. So within the city of Tampa, we are providing services too. So for instance, on our rehab program, we're actually working within our East Tampa area to provide rehab to those residents. Prior to the HOPE funding, we were not able to provide services within the city of Tampa area. They can also utilize many of our other services that we offer. So for instance, the Tampa Palms apartment, we went in and provided placement for, I want to say it was up to 300 families that were in that facility that needed to be placed. And so we work with those municipalities per the need and the request.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Gooch, you're recognized.
You know, she brings up a good point. You know, when you look at a lot of these different policies across the whole county, at some point, some of these things all tie into one. Someone's doing something over here. People call, I live here, I live there. Some of these things interlock together, and it should all be one. And I think your recommendation is right. I think there needs to be a real workshop with each individual municipality in the county to come up with some dynamic plans to say, this is the strategy for it. No matter you go here, there, here it is. This is what we're doing. Citizens get confused. I hear it all the time. Me and Ms. Myers go to a lot of places together. They never used to have. We go to a lot of places together. Well, they're doing this and that. With people are, well, I don't know where. I live here. I live right on the borderline here. I live less than 50 feet from Newshill, but you know the city's right here. I mean, it's challenging for the constituents. I think now it's time. We have to be out of the box thinkers, and at some point we have to come together and bond some things together so they make sense for the constituents. So I think a workshop is needed for all the housing units, municipalities, and the county to come together, and some plans to be made on how we're going to stabilize. You know, I look at the plan, the incentive plan. You know, I'm probably going to, call Kaon and probably send this over and say, no, do we have this plan? Do we have something in place? I don't know if we're doing that. But, again, it needs to intertwine together so everyone's on the same page. The county gives most of the money to the city and municipalities for housing. So I think at some point we have to fuse everything together. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I think part of it is because there is, the city gets its own funding for housing, and those funds have to be used for the city properties. The county gets its funding as well in terms of, from HUD and various other federal related programs, which without having our Hope Trust, we would not be able to do many things that we are able to do with the city. And there is quite a bit of coordination that does exist. The challenge is there's no lack of things to work on. We are in a situation where it's very, very, and a robust effort needs to be taken. So I do agree that possibly working where all the board members and the staff members and stakeholders, in order to address where we can find some best use of collaboration and where the limitations are in terms of what we can and can't do. And I think that would be a great opportunity for finding ways that we can work together. But as I mentioned, there's nothing to prohibit the city of Tampa or any of the other cities from attending these meetings and providing us with good impact and opportunities to work together. So I look forward to seeing that happen. Ms. Burton.
So, in the discussion, would you say that the county will be reaching out to these various municipalities and city governments to see if you can come together up under one type of bridge umbrella? I mean, we need to have something that goes out into the community, say that it's a definite, not that we hear constantly from, the community that nothing is happening, they don't know where to turn. We need to have somebody that's going to engineer this. So some dates, sometimes, who's going to be the charge person, who's going to be the lead agency, so we can move beyond what is becoming rhetorical almost.
Understood. So I'll make a motion that we work with staff on establishing a date that we can get all the parties at the table and do a workshop at how to best implement much of what is described in this biennial plan. I think that would be a valuable experience and a valuable time. So we'll work with Cheryl, and she'll work with cities to find an opportunity for us to conduct a workshop to make some recommendations on how we can streamline the process, not only for each of the municipalities or the governmental bodies, but also to make sure that we can develop a communications plan for our citizens so that they know who and where and how to tap into the resources that we're investing in our community. Ms. Howell, are you clear?
Yes, ma'am. I like to also add that it might be helpful if we had a reciprocal relationship. We have someone from the city of Tampa, the city of Plant City, and the city of Temple Terrace. They are our urban county partners, and so we do projects with them ongoing. But for the city of Tampa, the Board of County Commissioners really extended goodwill in making an invitation to have one of their representatives to sit on our board. But if there was a reciprocal relationship with sitting on their board as well, that would be helpful with ongoing, not just having one workshop where you come together, but ongoing communication about what's going on and how to plan as you move forward. So if we're looking at big picture, that may be something that needs to be considered at the city of Tampa as well, having one of the representatives from the board sit on the Ahab as well as they're rolling out programs to ensure that we have a seamless line of services for our residents that don't know and don't care if they live in the city of Tampa or unincorporated Hillsborough County.
Excellent. And I think that's a wise recommendation. The challenge we've had with the Tampa Housing Authority is they actually meet on our board day. So
No, not Tampa Housing Authority.
Oh, no, that's a different meeting.
Affordable Housing Advisory
Affordable Housing
Committee
Advisory.
for the city of Tampa.
Excellent. Okay, excellent.
Madam Chair, you have two motions on the floor. You ready for a second? Because you made a motion and Ms. Howard made a recommendation, but I second both.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I made a motion that we work with staff on establishing a workshop, okay, and you're seconding that motion. So, and then we'll get to Ms. Burton's motion. Natasha, would you like to take a roll call?
Overman,
Yes.
Rosenwasser. Myers,
Yes.
Burton. Abel,
Yes.
Powell. Oh, he stepped out.
Okay.
Okay. Goods,
Yes.
Jackson Sims,
Yes.
Ms. Combs?
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
Excellent. And Ms. Burton, would you like to restate your motion?
I hope somebody wrote it down, but basically what I was saying is having someone from the, who would establish the leadership. Maybe somebody else can state what I was saying, but establish the leadership as to when we would be able to move with the gathering of city and county agencies. I don't know how to make a motion of it, but to move forward to see when we can bring both of these agencies together to move in a more defined fashion in dealing with the issue of affordable
I
housing.
think that's in your workshop already.
I
correct?
think we can accomplish
Yeah,
that
yeah,
in the
with the
workshop.
All right.
Would you like
well,
to just include that as a,
So,
okay. I think we got it in the last motion,
All
so.
right, that'll work for me.
Okay, so I'll assume
Madam
you're
Chair.
going to withdraw the second motion. And Commissioner Myers, you'll withdraw your second. Okay, great. All right, excellent. I heard a voice from somewhere. Ms. Jackson Sims, you're recognized.
Madam Chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer a motion that our city and county have reciprocal agreements for a member of the county to also be able to participate and sit on the city side as the city sits on the county side. And that would offer us a full circle comprehensive housing initiative since we currently have Plant City and Temple Terrace.
Second,
Second.
okay. I have a motion by Ms. Jackson Sims, a second by Mr. Rossawasser. Any discussion?
I'm not really sure I understand the motion.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure I understand the motion.
So you're looking, so Ms. Jackson Sims, would you like to go through it just a bit and clarify?
Certainly. The county currently offers representation to the city with Councilman Gould sitting on this board and representing the city interests, but we don't have the same reciprocal standing with the city of Tampa. While we do have reciprocal agreements with Plant City and Temple Terrace, my motion is for the board to recommend that we go forward requesting the city for a reciprocal standing with their affordable housing efforts.
Excellent.
Understood.
Does
Thank
that
you.
answer your question? Okay,
Yes.
excellent. Ms. Burton, you recognized?
Is this something that would go directly to the mayor, or does it go to the city council for approval? I just want to
That is
understand.
a-
I was going to ask Ms. Tegan to send the motion, and in the next council meeting, if that's the case, I'll also make the motion at city council, and then legal can look in at whatever, or she can call legal. You can call legal to find out, the motion needs to be made, I'll make the motion.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's, the way I understand the motion, it's to make a recommendation that the city make an opportunity for a county representative on their board or on their organization. So
And
I think that gets, they would then have to make the appropriate changes, correct? But it's really up to them to decide that they want to do that. We're making a recommendation. Okay, all right.
If our legal can find out, then let me know, then I can make the appropriate motion for council at our next meeting.
Excellent, excellent. Commissioner
Madam-
Myers, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, if our representation could be Director of the Affordable Housing. Okay.
Okay. Is that the board's recommendation?
Good recommendation.
Yes, I
Okay.
move that the representation for the county be the the director of the county's affordable housing.
Okay, so is that a friendly amendment to Ms. Sims? Oh, okay,
Ms. Sims just said a representation, but I'm being specific who the representation should be.
okay.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Jackson Sims?
I am glad to amend my motion to include the desires of the commissioner and ask that our representation be the director of the county housing department.
Okay, we've heard the friendly amendment, or the amended
Second.
motion, and there's a second by Commissioner Myers. Ms. Howell, since that's you, maybe we should actually have that conversation before we take a vote on this. I do agree that you would be the most qualified person at the moment to serve in that capacity. I just wanted to make sure it works well, given your ability to be there and attend those meetings.
I serve at the pleasure of our Board of County Commissioners, and so certainly I'm willing to do whatever I need to do and create a better, I want to say, layout for our residents.
Excellent. Okay, I think we understand where you were going
So,
with that.
did you hear
Unfortunately,
me?
you broke up quite a bit, but with that, if there's no other comment, we can take a vote.
Overman,
Yes.
Rosenwasser,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Abel,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Jackson Sims,
Yes.
Combs,
Yes.
motion carried 9-0.
Excellent, thank you very much. Ms. Howell?
Okay, at our previous meeting, Councilman Goods had some questions in regards to our rehab program. And so I did want to bring back to you flyers. We have 3 rehab programs, and 2 of our vendors or providers work in the East Tampa area. We have our East Tampa Business and Civic Association that provides rehab services. We have our Center for Women that provides rehab services, and we have RTTV that provides demo replacement services for our residents in unincorporated Hillsborough County. And so I wanted to bring you back this. It has the some of the minimum qualifications on it and the program design. Please take those, copy them, use them, hand them out. We really want to get people some assistance if they need assistance.
Okay. Ms.
the
Burton, you
next-
have a question?
I wanted to know about how then will the department monitor usage of those funds, information being distributed to the community? Because that seemed to be a big factor in East Tampa. People are being not aware. We have a city rehab program that go unused. There's so many blue tarps in the community, you wouldn't know it's funding. So I would just like to be assured that there's going to be some monitoring both of all these agencies that are partnering to ensure that the community is made aware and just given the best opportunity to utilize those funds.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Connie. And I just want to say that, we have had staff out on the ground, knocking on doors, marketing this program, talking about this program with residents. We want to make sure that people are getting help. We also are employing some efforts through Florida Housing Coalition as well, because one of the things that's going on out in the East Tampa area and really in a lot of low-income African-American communities or people of color is that property is left. And so there's no clear path on the title. And so that requires a lot of work to have that title kind of cleared up. And so we want to make sure that we're getting good guidance. There's some work being done at the state to support initiatives that will help in cases like this. But that's a lot of what's going on too, Connie. But as we're moving forward, I want to say that we have encumbered most of the funds and probably will be coming back to have additional funds dedicated to these programs. So remember that we have 2 vendors in that area, and that is Center for Women and East Tampa. and we got a number of residents that's already signed out, work's being done in that area. And so we'll continue to do so. But if you have people who reach out to you and they need help, you know, I'm just a phone call away. So please reach out, have them give our office a call, and we certainly will we'll get back with them.
Excellent, thank you very much. Councilman Goods.
You know, I talk about this plan in the city all the time, and I always say, to me, it's not really working the way it needs to work. I look at this kind of the same way. You know, I know the folks that you named there who are partners are very good friends of mine, but that's not enough partners with the amount of housing that we have in the city or in the county that need rehab. Two, I've said many times that, you know, knocking on doors is good. You know, I always say the police officer, the code enforcement, the solid waste person who sees a blue tarp, they should be calling that in. Or a house that's falling apart, they should be calling that in. I say it all the time in the city. That's, you know, people don't know to know, like Ms. Connie said. But a lot of times what I find out is that a lot of these folks, and Michelle is right with this title issue, you know, we get bogged down in this red tape because, you know, we know the house is dilapidated, but we're worrying about all this other stuff. Well, I really don't care about all that stuff. I care about if there's a family living there and they have a right to be there, can we help them? But then it goes into, again, the red tape of, well, all these rules. Well, if I see a house that needs a doggone roof on it, it's going to take $7,000 to $8,000 to fix, and I got all these rules that half of them they can't meet, then what good is the program? It does us no good. Third portion of that, how much money of that is non-subsidized money? See, if you have non-subsidized money, you don't need all this criteria. But what happens is we get bogged down the red tape, make all this criteria and rules, and then nobody gets the work done but a very, very small percentage. And then we're back to square one. I tell you folks, we have to start thinking outside the box. If the money can be allocated, let's use the money. And if we have non-subsidized money, that's the easiest money. You know, I can't, you know, I can ask the feds or whoever, can they lack some of the, reduce some of the criteria, but they probably won't, so we help nobody. Then what you have a person who's right at this 80% AMI. I'm gonna tell you, most of the people that need the help is the 80 to 120 that really need the most help. That's who needs the most help. So I applaud all programs. I like what you do, Ms. Howe, but I'm just saying that's where you have to have the meaning of this work of the minds, so people come together to really see who are we really helping, and how do we get rid of a lot of the red tape that you don't need. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. We see a brand new house just get built on this street, and all the rest of the houses look like garbage on that street. But we talk about property value. But yet we're not going down and saying, how can I help who's living in those houses on that street to fix that block up? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Goods. I hear you. I would imagine that part of it has to do with the federal requirements on how these funds can be used. However, that being said, I think a concerted effort of getting the information out there in our communities is an important part of it. Ms. Howell, are these flyers provided in all of our libraries or in our community centers?
Yep. We post the flyers up in the community centers, in the library, at the local bodegas, our local corner stores. You know, we go to community events. We have it announced on the radio shows. You know, they're pushed out through our communications department, and so we're doing everything that we can do to support our efforts, you know. And so, all of us would like to live in a world with no rules. And so, but unfortunately, even with our local funding, we have rules and guidelines that we have to operate within to support these programs. And so, those are the regulations.
Madam Chair, and I respect
we
that.
have
Wait. Please don't interrupt
we
Ms.
have
Howell. Thank you.
to adhere to. With our local funds, we cannot support more than a family that's greater than 100% median family income. 50% of these funds have to be spent on families 50% and below median family income. That is the ordinance. And as staff, we have to carry out our activities and the things that we do according to that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Howell. Councilman Guth?
You know, and again, I respect the rules. We have to have rules. I'm just saying sometimes we have to, when we got other people's money, we got to go by the rules. But if it's our money, we got ARPA money. City has ARPA money. I've already said ARPA money's got to be utilized in a non-subsidized way, which it can be to do certain works. You have a lot of youth groups, a lot of programs that where you might somehow be able to find some dollars to have those folks go out and knock on doors. It's no different. We want somebody to vote for us, or we want something to get on the ballot. We pay money, or we want a 1 cent tax for transportation, and God be somebody finds some money and they go and knocking on doors, getting signatures to do whatever. We can do it. We want to do it. We want to do it. It's just a matter of putting our minds to do it.
Excellent,
Thank
thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, let me just add, in addition to what Ms. Howell said, I do promote these programs, affordable housing program, in my newsletter every 2 weeks. So they have been running for the past maybe a month and a half to the communities.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that I have noticed is that people oftentimes don't pay attention to what's out there until they need it. And so, I think it's just human nature to recognize, well, there's not out there because I didn't need it before, but now I need it, so I don't know where to find it. Our goal is to get the information out there as much as possible, and I do appreciate efforts. But I do believe it's going to be an ongoing, continual conversation with our communities, with our nonprofit partners, and with our municipal partners in order to make sure we get the information out there. Ms. Burton, you recognize?
I just want to say too that it's a matter of trust in terms of who is delivering the message. And I know that sometimes, being the hierarchy that you are, sometimes you might think that the people you're partnering with is the best source to deliver to our community, but something is really going amok inside of our communities, that with all of the monies that has been spent for all of the social services for 100+ years, we are still standing still. We're in the same place, and I say this all the time, that in this city, with a certain kind of political leadership, all being swayed in the same direction, from the mayor to all of the city council members to the vast majority of the commission, you all got to do something to show the base that it is working for us. It is not working for us. It is not working for us when it comes to affordable housing. It is not working for us for all of the wonderful reports you get in social service reports. It's not working. It is chaos in our community. And I know sometimes people hate for me to say it, but that's the realization. We are in trouble inside of our communities that we're going to be dependent upon to render a service come 2024. And we got to do a better job to do the heavy lifting. The heavy lifting is not happening. It sounds good, but it is not happening. We've just been spending money, and then we say, where's the results? We got dead bodies out in East Tampa everywhere. It's horrible. And it's so horrible until it's almost painful to even come to meetings. I'm just saying this, a little bit off the agenda. It's painful to even go to a city council meeting to hear the same rhetorical stuff every week, that things gonna get better for the community, and you go back into the community and you can't deliver nothing. We could do better. I think I agree with him. We got to think outside this box so we can get a better results for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. With that, you don't need a vote on this particular item. The next item on the agenda is the Child Tax Credit Program.
Madam Chair, before you go to the next item,
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Jackson Sims, you're recognized.
thank you. I'd like to suggest that when the joint meeting takes place between the county and the municipalities, that everyone also bring to the table of that meeting so that we will specifically know the extent of what we're talking about, the amount of money that's being allocated to affordable housing, and the amount of very low income, and moderate income individuals within the respective communities. And lastly, that we bring a listing of the subcontractors that are being used to deliver services to those communities. So we can see if there are subcontractors that are being used in all of the jurisdictions and encourage those subcontractors to inform the constituency that they're serving that their funds are coming from a unit of local government so that they understand and know where the help is coming from. But how much money is being spent, both federal, state, and local dollars on affordable housing?
Excellent comments. Thank you very much for that recommendation. And we will make sure that we include that in our workshop agenda. I think that would be very valuable information to share. Ms. Howe? You're muted, ma'am.
Thank you so much for all your comments. And so I'll start the initial reach out to the city. I'm not sure who I'll be working with at the city on this because they still don't have an affordable housing manager or director at this time. And so, but I will be reaching out and get some guidance on who to work with and begin this process.
Excellent.
The next item that I did want to talk about is the Child Tax Credit Program. And so for our families who are struggling, this program can be incredibly helpful in helping people to make ends meet. And so I wanted to just kind of bring you some information on this so that you can share it with the people that you come in contact with as well. So some people are already aware, some not, and some may not know many of the details to it as well. So I just want to wanted to share this information with you so that you can pass on to those that you contact and help them get signed up as well. The next item is our proposed 2022 Ahab schedule. And I have this before you. This is an item that has to be voted on.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. In your packet, you'll find there are several dates that are actually scheduled. We'll keep the schedule the same and in general, 9 a.m. meeting on Mondays. There are 3 periods, however, where there are the Board of County Commissioners not available, or we're in a meeting-free period. But they're also given when some of the reports that are due and some of the processes that the Affordable Housing Department does go through. It offers an opportunity to get some of those things best prepared for that time period. And so you'll see that there's a variety of dates offered and 3 meeting-free periods in April, July, and December for next year's schedule. So if there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to
So
approve
moved.
the calendar for
Second.
2022. We have a motion by Member Ross Wesser. My mouth is just not working today, sorry. And a second by Commissioner Myers. Can you take a roll call vote, please?
Overman,
Yes.
Rosenwasser,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Abel,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Jackson Sims,
Yes.
Combs.
Yes.
Motion carried 9-0.
Excellent. Now, this calendar will then be forwarded to the BOCC calendar, as well as communications and our corporate calendars, so that this information is available for the public to be able to participate in the meetings as they desire. And also, I just highly recommend, put it on your calendar. because we're going to have a robust year in '22. So we want to make sure everybody has it on their calendar ahead of time, although you'll still get notices. With that, Ms. Howell.
Absolutely. And so we'll move on to our next items. We have our recently approved BLCC agenda items. Are there any questions about any of the agenda items that are included in this package? If you
Seeing
haven't had a
none,
chance to read over them, please do. There are some good items in here, just kind of showcasing some of the work that we've been able to undertake. Finally, we have our affordable housing report here. We have our monitoring and compliance report. You'll see some of the work that's been done here. We have our contracts division. These are open projects that we're currently working on. We have, I want to say, over 67 projects that we're working on. And for those who may not know this, we do affordable housing, but we also oversee community development projects and a small amount of public services projects as well. And so we kind of have our charts here to show you the amount of money and funding that we've received thus far from these programs, give you kind of an overview of what we've received over time. And for our COVID-19 funding as well. And last but not least, we have our Affordable Housing Services newsletter. And we have highlighted one of our public facilities projects, Sunrise Community. And this is a residential adult training facility campus that we're doing some improvements on. And so for those of you who are not aware, we work with foster kids that are aging out of foster care, people who are emerging out of homelessness. We got several shared housing programs that open up, and we got 7 that's slated to be open up in 2022. We have programs with Mary and Martha's House, Catholic Charities, just a number of different programs. And also, we were highlighted at for 2 of our programs that we funded, and that was All People's Park and a project that was done in collaboration with UACDC, and that is the I want to say it was is it the Hope Park, Sarah?
Yes, Harvest Hope Cultural Campus.
Yeah, Harvest Hope Cultural Campus, and had an opportunity to spend an evening with many of our people that we work closely with, and Sarah received that award. We funded that project, and so it's just a lot of great things that's going on. There is a tremendous amount of need that's going on in the community. And I just want to say we're not overlooking the need, but at the same time, we want to share with you the things that we have been able to accomplish as well.
okay.
And so that does it for the director's report. Are there any questions?
Any question? Member Abel, you're recognized.
I had a question about the child tax credit info sheet that you gave us. And first of all, I think that's really important to be able to get that information out because many parents don't know about it. And I really appreciate that. But there's one category of people that I've gotten the most questions from myself. And there's a criteria for single people and a criteria for married people. But there's a lot of divorced people with shared custody. And they don't know if they can expect a tax credit for both parents or whatnot. And I don't know if you have more information about that, but it would be helpful to include something about how to get more information about that for parents in that situation.
Okay, and I think that that's gonna hinge on how you file your taxes for each particular year, right? So who's eligible to claim them for that year?
I think you're right. I just think that that's the biggest question that I'm hearing from people. So I think maybe including something about that on there like for divorced families, make sure you see how you filed the previous year or something like that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll include that going forward.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the future business items. Are there any, other than our workshop that we'll be working on trying to organize and put that together and bring back dates to the board for consideration? I'd like to consider any new business items. Mr. Rosenwasser, you're welcome.
Thank you for recognizing me. When that workshop meets, I heard from Councilman Gudis and I think it was Connie Burton that people are confused as to where they go. And I was wondering if during that workshop, a discussion can be held as to a jointly funded small department of where people could call regarding any housing issue, and the folks in that office would have, in that department, would have the ability and the knowledge to say, well, you live in the county, you live in the city, go to this one, go to that one, here's the phone number. I think that would be a basis for a source of information.
Excellent, excellent recommendation. So we'll make sure that we take that into consideration. Oftentimes, I think that does happen when you'll call one or the other, but we can get it more formalized so that that is communication or included as part of the communications package. Any other future business items? Councilman Goods.
Ms. Takamura, did you need a motion to look into the rent stabilization, or are you good with that?
I have your direction.
Thank
I will
you.
do that.
Excellent. Any other future business items that need to be considered? I'm sorry, Ms. Burton.
Ms. Karen Jackson Sim had raised in a previous meeting that some landlords was unwilling, slow to accept Section 8 vouchers. Did we ever get a report back from that in the direction in which we would start looking into that? I was kind of like thinking what Mr. Rosenwald just stated, that like there are some slumlords out in the community, and I'm just thinking about one that's been in the press, Timberlake Falls. They take a lot of Section 8. Silver Lakes apartment complex, they take a lot of Section 8 and have site-based housing, so they're getting a lot of federal money. But the condition of the units are horrible. Seems like we should have like a central warehouse, who is in charge of how residents can forward complaints to their political leadership, and then that body can then forward their concerns up the chain of command. Because it's getting lost in the community, and the pushback from landlords is that if you talk too much, you might get evicted. So who ain't taking Section 8 vouchers? Who do? How do slumlords that's getting federal money adhere to the concerns of the property? I would like to see if you have something like that in place, make it aware to the community. You can call whatever number as a, call center so we can move forward.
And I appreciate those comments, Ms. Burton. That's part of the reason why I need the Tenant Bill of Rights approved in the city of Tampa. Because those properties are in fact in the city of Tampa. That kind of action in the county is addressed by our code enforcement, and the information, the flyers that we have do advise the tenants within those facilities and those buildings of their rights. And so I think it is important that we get it adopted in the cities so that we understand that the rules are the same. Unfortunately, when it was adopted, we were interested in getting it done as quickly as possible, and we did not work out all the details with the municipalities prior to having it approved in the county. So hopefully, if it gets adopted in the city, then there'll be similar protections for the tenants that are inside the city that are living in facilities similar to that. To address your other concern about properties and evictions and notices and tenants and landlords and whether they're being responsive or not. Hopefully, I believe it won't be until the December agenda But I'm bringing back to the board a eviction mitigation home stabilization plan for approval at the BOCC level. We did fund resources for being able to actually provide legal representation for those individuals that are going through that process so that they have the ability to actually make sure they know what their rights are as they are facing a potential eviction before they end up going to court. And to help facilitate having the landlords respond to a citizen who may be eligible for emergency, assistance or other assistance to get them current on their rent payments in the event that they are overdue or past due. So that goal of that, getting that program out, I know that Ms. Combs in the UACDC has an eviction mitigation program with Bay Area Legal as well as United Way in partnership. This is to actually take the program countywide. So it would in fact be available to both city and county tenants to assist them when they were at the point of potentially being evicted from their property and knowing what their rights are. So I'm hoping to see that come back to the board very soon. I was hoping it would be this next week, but apparently there's one more detail that needs to get worked through. So we should see that program roll out very quickly. Mr. Rosenwasser, you're recognized.
Ms. Burton, I just wanted to point out that code enforcement, both city and county, is responsible for making sure that that housing is maintained in accordance with certain standards. To my understanding, Section 8 is required to be taken by every landlord. And I know that I have, for my company, I hired an independent company to call my property offices. And before anything's asked, they say, do you take Section 8? And if that person says no, there's a counseling session and they're informed. As far as your concern about evictions, local magistrates and judges do take into serious consideration a retaliatory eviction. And there is a mediation program already in place that the judges will normally refer to. There are serious fines and penalties for retaliatory eviction, and it's deplorable. And I think that, it needs to be addressed, like you said.
Thank you. Councilman Goods.
Two things. It's not the eviction, it's more or less not renewing the lease. That's the big picture. If I complain, I'm not renewing your lease in a couple months. I know your lease is up in a couple months. I'm not renewing your lease. So that's the bigger picture that's happening now because nobody really wants to pay for the eviction process. So I'll wait and I'll get rid of you at the lease time. That way, if I don't want you anymore or you don't like something, you're out, or I'm going to raise rent for my next tenant that's going to come in. Because that's one point. The second point, when you talked about code enforcement, the city and the county cannot do certain things on these apartment complexes after there are so many buildings, 4 buildings. So the problem you have is, when does the state come in? They don't come in. That's been the problem. So hopefully, Senator Rusan and Representative Hart and Representative Driscoll, hopefully we'll try to get a bill through the legislature this coming up term to be able to address that, to maybe the local municipalities, county municipalities can handle those situations for code enforcement issues.
If you could clarify, you said code enforcement can't handle if there are more than?
The more than 4 units, code enforcement can't do anything on that property. It goes immediate to the state. And so once they look at that apartment complex, they don't do it because they may go and try to talk to the management, just ask them questions or do some things, but to really give sanctions or anything like that, they have to report to the state, and then you don't know when the state's going to get there if they get there.
Yeah, and let me address that issue because we have not experienced that problem within the county. It does seem to be a city policy to address that, although the state does have jurisdiction on a multifamily unit to some degree, similar to inspecting hotels. Apartments are also under that same statute. However, I know the county's code enforcement has not really had a problem with doing the inspections and providing us with a way of inspecting those properties regardless of the size. So I think there's an opportunity to try and work out with the code enforcement division and possibly legal's opinion on how to move forward on that. So I think we can find a solution to that, and I think that we do need to. Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, we are working with the state to come down and do a site visit at Timber Falls. Because when it's more than 4 units, the city cannot do anything related to that unit. And about 3 weeks ago, we were out, including the city of Tampa, Code Enforcement Councilman Vieira, and State Rep Diane Hart was out at Timber Lane, meeting with the residents, and where the conditions that they're living in is just deplorable.
Understood.
And to be receiving Section 8 money every month. We have to do something about that.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing that. Actually, we've all been very aware of that because I've been there too. But I do think that we do need to see if there's an opportunity to address that piece of the legislation that would cause individuals within the city or county to experience deplorable conditions, because by state law, that's not permitted in the first place. So, Mr. Rosenwasser.
Well, our state legislation delegation, they have it for this coming session.
Okay, excellent.
I met with them.
Ms. Jackson Sims, I saw you raise your hand. I wasn't sure if it came up or down, so. Yes, ma'am.
It's up, it's up. A couple of things. First, we shouldn't forget that any unit that has a Section 8 voucher on it has to pass housing quality standards, and that Tampa Housing Authority, on behalf of both the city and the county, can send out a housing inspector if the resident believes that the unit has fallen below housing quality, federal housing quality standards for their livability. So that is another tool that we have in our arsenal that we need to encourage residents to utilize. And secondly, to Ms. Connie, I want her to know that I do owe a couple of names to I think it is to go to Ms. Takamori for referral to code enforcement. However, I was caught up in my annual conference for my denomination with a brand new bishop. So I will be forwarding those names into her at a later date. And lastly, I know that this is our last meeting until January. So I'd just like to thank the elected officials that are on this board. Dealing with the affordable housing issue is not necessarily a politically safe issue to deal with, can be highly risky for your political futures, but hats off and accommodations to you for jobs well done in representing your constituency fiercely to ensure affordable housing opportunities. I really have appreciated what I've seen from you all.
Well, thank you, Ms. Jackson Sims. I'm sure we all appreciate those words of wisdom and compassion. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, and I'm sure the rest of us do as well. And as she mentioned, we will not be meeting in December, and so we won't be having an opportunity to wish us all a wonderful holiday season. So before we adjourned, I wanted to make sure that we get that information out there, and thanks for the reminder. Mr. Rosenwasser, before we close.
Relative to Councilman Guta's comment, Chapter 83 of the Florida statute allows either a landlord or a tenant to non-renew a lease without giving the person a reason. Somebody can move out because they just don't like the color of the building. And so if that issue needs to be addressed at the state level. Secondly, there is another resource for people to go to other than code enforcement, and that is the Consumer Affairs Department, Consumer Protection. They are able to levy significant fines on landlords who don't provide quality or at least
Safe housing. Yeah.
affordable housing, quality affordable housing.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. That's good information to be shared. Seeing no other comments or hands raised, we will have I wish everyone a safe and healthy and holiday season, and we will get together back in January. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.